I'm pretty happy with the way this is going. I think for now, we'll pop the airbox the rest of the way off, get the carb out, and take a look inside of it. Okay, 8mm bolts, get the airbox the rest of the way off. Or at least loosened up so we can take it off. And of course, we're gonna have something clamping it on here. Okay, change of plans. We're gonna take the carburetor and the airbox out as one unit. I think that should do the trick. This carburetor bolt's tough in there. Let's see if we can show you the bolt I'm trying to get out. It's right here. And it's just buried in there. Not a good way to get a tool in there and zip it out with a power tool. And I can't really get a good enough grip on this to overcome the little bit of torque that's there. I think I have the tool though. Let's see if we can dig it out. Now I don't know if this is going to work, but I saw this on sale at a Lowe's one day and I just kind of had to have it because it's a tiny little handheld ratchet that can also swivel and pivot. So we're going to see if putting this thing in there gives me any shot at getting that out. We'll come back in a moment. I'll level with you. Didn't work at all. No way was that going to fit. As soon as I looked in there, I realized it wasn't going to fit. But it's still a cool tool, and now I got to show it off to somebody. So that was cool. We've got the airbox moving free. So I can reach in here, and we're going to unscrew the carburetor cap, or the throttle cap, so I can get the, so hopefully I can get the throttle out, but this might take some cajoling. Okay, we've got the throttle cable coming loose. The cap was stuck on there pretty good, but should pop off in a second here. And we'll see if we can get this carb pulled further out so we can get the gas line off. Unplugged, and we can have the whole thing out here. And there we go. Got our carburetor out. Now we just want to get the gas line off and see if we can get this thing to see what it looks like inside. Gonna need some pliers. I don't know what kind of person put this thing on here. There is no good way to get in here. You can see it a little bit. There's no good way to get this little clamp off without pulling off. I mean, I guess I could try getting the air box off now that it's here. Okay, I'm learning some things. I'm going to share them with you. I think if you want to get the air box off, you have to undo this little Phillips head screw right here. And then this cover, oh, there's another one. You don't want to take the air box off of these. Let's put it that way. But we'll see what we can do. That's why you should wear safety glasses. Airbox is off, carburetor's exposed. I still think this is a very silly way to have that clamp in there because it sits in like this, the airbox in front of it. Now I can at least twist it and pull it up. So there we go. Okay, we've got things sort of exposed. We've got the hose clamp off, not off, but up. And now, after many years of neglect, we're gonna go ahead and try to get the fuel line off of where it feeds the carburetor so we can take a look at what's going on here. But a little flathead screwdriver might just give us the chance we need to just get it started. I'd like to not tear up the hose entirely or spill gasoline and starting fluid on my power tools. So tuck the fuel line up for now. It's out of the way, we don't have to worry about it too much. There's our carburetor. Give you a better shot, a little more light. With the degreasing and everything, it's not terrible. If we can see in here a little bit, there's some yellow, kind of varnishy gunk that comes from leaving ethanol fuel in there for too long. But at least the outside of the carb isn't looking too terrible. We know it operated. We know there is some junk stuck up in here along with all the starting fluid and crap I sprayed in there, but got our carburetor out. The carburetor out, I guess it's time to open it up. I'm gonna wipe down the surface and see how it goes. The other thing we should probably do is drain whatever's in the float bowl. So hopefully there's not a ton. We're just gonna drain it into a rag here. I already soaked up a bunch of junk that poured out. I should have gotten a jar. It smells like varnish, which means the tank's full of garbage. Doesn't smell like gasoline, doesn't smell like starter fluid, doesn't smell like the water that I rinsed it with. It just smells like varnish. So we'll see what's going on inside. All right, here's our carb. Just 2 screws. Not too tight, not stripped or anything. That's a good sign so far. 1. Try not to lose those. Well, the actual float bowl really doesn't look terrible. Not a huge bunch of gunk on there or anything. Float looks good. We'll pull the jets out and take a look, but very promising so far. Main jet. Pilot jet. Or the other way around, maybe. Can never keep it straight. I mean, initially I can't see anything through these. You probably can't either, but let's take a look. Okay. Hoping this is coming through. But we can see right through that. It's hard to tell if it's coming through on camera. But I can see the light. And on jet number 2, so far I can't. Okay. Just barely, I can see some light through there. I think it's a tiny hole, so that's a good sign. There's another shot. Hopefully we can see the light coming through. So our jets look good. All in all, exceptionally promising. We'll hit this one with a little carb cleaner. We'll hit them both with a little carb cleaner and just make sure they're good. But I mean, the inside of this carb is looking mighty fine. Hopefully we can see the light coming through here. But nothing's gummed up too bad, so positive so far. All right, I'm gonna clean these up and we'll put it back together. All right, hosed everything down with some carb cleaner. Wipe it out. Not really any junk coming out. I mean, might be able to see unicorns after all of that, but everything's looking really nice and clean, even without the liberal application of chemicals. Tighten our float bowl back up so that it doesn't start draining when we put this all back together. Reinstall our jets. All right, carburetor is reassembled and all together pretty clean. All that's left is drain the fuel tank and see if we can't get something to come out. So I think that's the last thing we'll do today. So carburetor's clean. It was pretty good to begin with, which is a great sign. I did run, squirt a bunch of seafoam into the tank before when I took it, when I bought it. It hadn't been running when I bought it, so I don't know if that made it anywhere. Our fuel still smells kind of like water and varnish or paint thinner. And that's not a good thing when it comes to fuel. So what we're gonna have to do is drain the whole fuel tank out. This has a vacuum operated petcock, and I don't particularly want to have to go and remove the whole petcock because it's not leaking now, and I feel like that's just asking for problems. So I'm gonna try to come up with a solution for that one, and when I do, we'll go ahead and drain the tank out. All right, I have the vacuum hose for the petcock pretty much off, and now it's all the way off. Now we have to get the fuel through this hose into this jug. That on its own is going to be a fun challenge because I don't quite have enough hands or things to do that. But I think if I use a pair of vice grips, it'll hold this heavy enough where it needs to be that we can drain it. And then I need to operate the petcock. Now the petcock is operated by vacuum. This was plugged in to the intake manifold into the motor. And what that means is that when the motor's sucking in fuel and air, it's also pulling in on that hose and sucking air down and operating that petcock. I don't know if this is going to work, but I think if I put one of my little syringes on here and I pull a vacuum, that might give me just enough to open that up and let the tank drain down. And we'll see if that does the trick. So let's get this set up. Okay, we're set up. Vice grips are holding our thing here. Move you a little closer. And this is my syringe, little piece of tube. I don't know if this is going to work, but maybe. Okay. I'm really impressed with this. It's working like a charm. And if I want to shut it off, just push the syringe closed. Open it up, and we're draining out our water. There is some gas in there. So it appears that there was probably a lot of water settled from ethanol fuel in the bottom of it. And now that it's kind of getting into this, it's starting to smell like real gas again, which would make sense because I had put some gas in here thinking it had been empty. I never actually checked. So let's continue draining. I have no idea how much fuel was in here. Instead of the syringe, I've decided to use the brake fluid pump because I can keep pumping it up. I don't have to reset the syringe when it runs out of volume. This just keeps pulling, and as it loses vacuum, I pump it a couple more times. I'm so pleased with this. And you guys were here to learn this with me. So I'm gonna check the tank, but I think we're drained. Fuel tank's empty. That should about do it. And I can put the carb back on and we'll see if it wants to fire up. Still need to go through plenty on brakes, spark plug, that sort of stuff. But for the couple hours I've been at this, pretty successful, I think. Let's put it back together quick and see what we get. Drop our shit everywhere. So, side with gasket, side with a gasket. So this gets the side without a gasket. And make sure it lines up properly. So all the holes, everything's together. So that's the orientation we're going to go back in. Might take a third arm. Okay, carburetor's back in. Couple things I learned. Put the airbox onto the carburetor, then put the fuel line onto the carburetor. Do both of those before you put it into the side of the scooter, because that wasn't entirely fun. Beyond that, we're going to see if this fires up in just a few moments here. Okay, scooter's up on the bench. We put fuel in it. Let's see what happens. Carburetor's there. Things are cleaned off. We have oil. We know the air filter is good. So, oh, maybe something. Hey. There's a little light. Settles into a nice idle. Okay, quick question. Does the headlight start? The headlight works, right? Yeah, high beam, low beam works. Scooter runs. Revs up. Okay. Now we're in business. Still things we got to do. Put a new spark plug in it. Tires, brakes, cleaning, reassembly, and then decide what's going to happen with it. I'm going to be honest, this one was a lot easier than the rough house, which was full of sand. So thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy these ones. We're only partway through it. It runs, but there's still plenty other things we have to do. We don't have to replace any engine components, which is just a blessing. But now it's my turn to get out of here. I've got to go get cleaned up. I've got a show to go to tonight. Thanks for watching.